Welcome to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series, brought to you by the C.T. Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. We're having a conversation about work-life balance, how to navigate and overcome challenges within your career, and how to make business more accommodating to a diverse workforce.
Hi, this is Emese Felvegi, Faculty and Director of Digital Learning at the C.T. Bauer College of Business. Thank you for joining us for a podcast. Our guest today is Chelsea Price. Hi, Chelsea. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Can you tell us who you are when you joined the UH system?
Sure. So I've been working in the UH system since 2013. I started at another college, but I've been at Bauer since 2015. And in my position as the career education manager at the Rockwell Career Center for 3.5 years now. So this is my third full year having taught the course that's formerly known as Gen B 3302, but recently had a name change. So it's Busy 3302, connecting Bauer to business to thousands of students each semester.
So can you tell us a little bit about that class? I feel like it runs parallel to mine, which teaches computer and information literacy skills. Yours is the soft skill, communication skills. Can you tell us what the curriculum is like?
Yeah, the majority of the students who come into the class are either transfer students or freshmen, meaning that they are really new to the college experience at U of H. They just got there from high school, or they came from a community college in most cases. Sometimes they transferred from another four-year institution, but they're being introduced to the University of Houston. And when they're in our class, they're being introduced to a class that is not like any other that they've experienced before. Oftentimes, it's the largest class that they've ever been in. So there comes a lot of intimidation sometimes to be sitting amongst 300 other people you don't know at all. But we are quick to welcome the students and start walking them through the career development process by teaching them a lot of the soft skills that you're probably having to teach in your class and getting them prepared for the career that they intended to start when they selected Bauer as their college of choice.
So you mentioned having over 300 students. Has that class traditionally been taught in the big SEMO auditorium?
Before my time, the class was taught in the Cullen Performance Hall, which could accommodate all 1,000 students at once.
Oh, wow.
And I teach this class alongside Jamie Boleyn, and I know that she actually preferred that format because it was just one and done. It didn't require multiple sections of the class like it does right now. So it shifted to SEMO Hall, which accommodates 431 students each semester. And in the fall, we do 3 sections of the class just because enrollment numbers have gone up at Bauer so much in past years, which is a great thing. But that also means that we have to do a little bit more work. So in the fall, we're teaching 3 sections, and each spring we do 2, which is the difference between 1,300 and a little over 800 students between the 2 semesters.
Okay. So you've gone from a physical environment that was perhaps intimidating to a digital environment. In the physical environment, it's sometimes easier to engage because the energy of the room, of the speaker, just is so infectious. How have you been able to transition from the physical to the digital?
It has been difficult. We had to start working early on over the summer to figure out how this was even going to happen. And we even, worked up until the first week of class to decide if the way we're doing it right now is the way we're going to do it. Unfortunately, having to teach this in a virtual format we're not able to see the students the way we have been in the past in person. And I mean that we don't see them at all. So we're teaching via Zoom once a week, and Jamie and I are talking to each other on the screen because we're the only people that we can see. We know how many people are in the class at the time because we can see the numbers, but we've had to keep it in a webinar format so that we're only talking to each other, just to keep distractions down and to avoid any weird things happening online. But we don't love it, and we've learned that the students don't love it because we get comments from them and questions all the time about when they'll be able to see us, and really wondering what the class would be like in person. They've asked those questions. So we've, all learned that it's not our favorite thing, but we've really tried to normalize it as much as possible, or as best as we can.
And so I know how most of us who have a math section, who have 200, 300, 400 students at a time in our classes, feel about the online transition and how the students feel. But at the same time, I think you've done a terrific job of maintaining presence, because this type of interaction may not be possible with the students. But I've looked at all of your content on Microsoft Stream, and I know how hard you've been working on using tools like Vion, using captions, using animation, using different types of media. Plus, you're also bringing all these guest speakers. So I feel like there's a lot that's been lost, but you've done a tremendous amount of work bringing in other elements that may not even have been possible before. So can you talk about all the videos that you've done with your guest speakers, with alumni, with advising, and how that is benefiting the students?
Yeah, so some of that work that started over the summer included reaching out to alum, other professionals, and the academic advising team, for example, to ask them to record videos with us or record videos on their own to introduce students to topics that we would be talking to the class about in person. And luckily, everyone was very open to do it. I think at a point over the summer, there wasn't as much Zoom fatigue, and everyone was like, yeah, I'll do that. And they wanted to see people and interact in some way. So we got them early and ask those people to just record so that we could embed those things in different parts of the class and still have students be able to experience what we wanted them to and get the learning that we hope they would get in person, while hoping that it would still be as interesting. And luckily, the people that we found, I think, were just as engaging as they might have been in person, and hopefully the students were able to appreciate some of their personality through those recordings. And you mentioned the animation online through programs like Beyond. That was really fun work to do. It took a lot of time. So we recorded short segments of different topics that we would cover through full lectures in class. The entire lecture might take 7 minutes on Beyond, but it would take Jamie and I 4 days to do that 7 minutes. Yeah. But that was all really in an effort to avoid strictly having to do the webinar and womp, every Tuesday.
Yeah. And I think now you have a huge catalog of speakers, of content, of a host of topics related to your lectures. So I think that variety, in addition to the live sessions, which I know there's that assumption of having that the whole notion of death by Zoom or something like that. But at the same time, it is giving students an opportunity to connect with you through their own effort, through their own scheduling, to still commit to class. So I think it's not what it was, but it's something that allows for students to still connect and make the most of what is not a natural way of teaching our classes.
Yeah.
I mean, many classes work really well as an online class. In some ways, mine works better because you can pause my video and follow along in Excel. But yours is not a technical application. It's It's that interaction with the other students that makes your class as strong an addition as anything else.
Yeah, I do think, honestly, our class did not allow a whole lot of flexibility in the past. But to your point, this format really has given students that chance. The students were only able to attend the section that they were assigned to when we were in person. And now they can attend any Zoom time that we're presenting or watch the videos online and get the same information. We're still making a point to give them all of the content and information and details about assignments that we need to, so that students can still be successful. And our hope is that even with the less enthusiastic, less exciting way of having to do this, they can still appreciate the things that are being thrown out there and learn from it. That's our hope.
Can you talk a little bit about Edusource and how that is allowing for students to connect as a group and bring back much cherished portions of your class?
Yeah, so Edusource is a new tool for us this semester, and it was coming regardless. It just so happened that COVID happened and we decided to introduce this tool to the class, but it's been great. So it's the tool that we are using to manage our group projects that exist in the class every semester. And in the past, it was something that it involved a lot of processes and a lot of moving parts for us to manage, and was really tricky to do. But Edusource has given us one place to get students into groups without it being as confusing of a process as I think it was in the past, and allow them to view projects and communicate with each other along with their sponsor or mentor, which is new to the project too. Whereas Blackboard didn't allow us to do that in the past. So Edusource is a really cool tool. It's easier for grading for the TAs, and I'm glad that it's here.
And really, I think that that's a really strong point for the class, that some aspects may be lost because you cannot teach the class in person, but you have a huge amount of mentors and sponsors the students can now interact with through the use of technology.
Yeah.
So how many mentors and sponsors do you have? I think it's an insane amount of people.
116 mentors,
Wow.
I believe, and
Wow.
a whole bunch of sponsors. And that's great. That's another thing, another ask that we had to make over the summer, to find a bunch of people who were willing to volunteer their time this semester to just watch a group of students work through this project and give them feedback. Because otherwise, we'd have a group of students working on an ethics case with not as much guidance as we had been able to offer them in person and through the class. And we found that, even aside from the group project process, there are a lot of questions about the class. And we recognize even more that there are different types of learners. There's a different way that people understand how to learn, even in terms of in person and virtual. It's not always a visual or an audio type of learning that exists. So that's something that we're coming to learn right now, as we have had to adjust our messaging to students. And the mentor piece of the ethics project has really helped to give us a person, oftentimes an alum, who's taken the class before, to say, hey, I actually know about that a little bit. Let me talk to you about it and tell you what my take is, and how you guys might want to approach this, and really giving us some relief in that aspect, so that those students in the ethics project have a place and a person to talk to and ask questions to.
That's awesome. And that's always a concern for me. Right now I have a little over 1,000 students, and I'm doing projects with an external client. I'm shifting to Edusource for the last month with a subset of students, and I'm really looking forward to how I can connect them with yet another voice in the community that will allow for them to connect the content with something that's tangible. I think that's the biggest selling point for our courses, that these are real cases, real people, not a textbook case, but something that adds great value to the students.
Mm-hmm. And in a way, the challenge of not being able to communicate the same way online as we are in person, I think has forced the students to have to work a little bit harder, which is a good thing for me. While it may be a challenge and frustrating for them at times, I do think that it's forcing a lot of people to think a lot more than maybe they would have to in the past when it's all right in front of their face. So it's not all bad to me.
So, and along those lines, I know you've done a lot of the professional development over the summer, because I saw you in all those sessions. You've been recruiting all these mentors, you've been developing all this content, learning the software, investing a great deal of time for work. What do you do to take care of yourself? Do you have a routine for that?
So first, I'll say that I have to give credit where it's due, because I did do a lot of work myself. Jamie has done a ton of work, and she also employed other people in our office to help us out with this project. Well, not this project, but the class. Zach Wartzel, who's one of our career counselors in our office, was designated as the mentor coordinator or mentor manager for the group projects, and has taken on a lot of the communication with students and mentors to manage that process, and recruited a lot of them with the help of our office and a lot of work himself. And it's been amazing to have him doing that piece, because so much else is going on behind the scenes and was going on over the summer. To answer your question, to be honest, 8 months in, I'm still trying to figure out how to take care of myself sometimes. I have an 8-month-old, and this is very new for me, having to juggle the class this way and be a first-time mom. And I'm aside from lighting a candle here and there just to make the house smell nice and make me feel good about that, I'm still trying to figure it out. One thing that I have learned that I have to do in this process is just ask for help when I need it, or admit when I am drowning. And that's been at home, with my family, by saying, hey, this is a lot right now. I am overwhelmed. I just need to take a nap this weekend. I took a nap for an hour over the weekend and had to, tell somebody, hey, I need to take a nap. I cannot do anything else anymore. And being honest about, when I am not understanding or feel like I'm falling behind at work. While it hasn't been the easiest thing to admit at times, I have realized that that's important for me now through this life change and what we're all dealing with. So I'm still trying to find the perfect wellness technique for myself.
Yeah, it's a process. I think everything is a process. And to me, naps and reading and video games help. Yeah. I don't think you have the time for the video games.
I have
What did you last read?
I read The 5 Love Languages. I read that, and that was not a new concept for me, but something that really helped me understand how to communicate my needs to my family, to my friends, and how I understand and receive love, and give it myself. I don't think it only applies to, or I know it doesn't only apply to couples. So I really enjoyed that read. It was quick. That was one reason that I read it. I also started working on a scrapbook. So that was a lot of fun to do. I'm still working on it, but a scrapbook for the baby. I just do things here and there when I can that seem like they'll be fun and won't take me a lot of time to do, or that I can space out over time.
Thank you so much, Chelsea, for talking about your class and yourself and sharing all of this with us.
Thank you, Dr. Felvegi. I really enjoyed doing this with you.
And I hope we can continue to collaborate on things, and I hope to learn from your content online. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Likewise, you're welcome.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series from the CT Bauer College of Business, brought to you by the Inclusive Leadership Initiative. The initiative aims to develop inclusive leaders and family-friendly cultures that support business strategy and superior business performance. For more information about Bauer and this podcast series, visit www.bauer.uh.edu/podcast.